Posted by you/help celiac? A little background: my 17F parents divorced when I was very young. My mom had me for most of the year, and my dad had me for the summer. I hated going to my dad's house, partially because he was very stubborn and rude and always had to do things his way, but also because every time I went to my dad's house, I got violently sick. Nausea, rashes, pain, muscle cramps, and then, when I got older, I'd start missing my periods. Sorry if that's TMI. I went to a doctor, but he said it was a psychosomatic problem related to stress and directed me to see a therapist. My dad didn't let me see a therapist because he thought it was total crap. My mom took me to one a few times, but by then, my symptoms had cleared up, so we couldn't tell if it helped at all. One thing that really pissed me off was that my dad ate a lot of junk food and drank soda instead of water, and he mocked me mercilessly if I tried to eat healthy. I think it reminded him of my mom because she's always been a bit of a health nut. I would sneak carrots into the house, and if he found them, he'd throw them out. At my mom's house, I'd eat vegetables and organic chicken. Sometimes the food would make me feel sick, but I'd just stop eating that food and it was fine. I got into the habit of turning down any food offered to me because I didn't know if it was safe. I just explained it away as being a picky eater. And then, when I was 16, a new girl moved to my school. I became friends with her, and after a couple of months, I noticed that she avoided all the same foods as me. I mentioned it in passing, like, "Hey, isn't that weird?" And she got concerned and told me that she had celiac disease and that I should get myself checked. I got checked, and sure enough, I had it. Everything suddenly made sense. I was so excited to finally understand what was wrong that I told everybody I knew. I told all the people who I thought were my friends. And they, I guess, didn't really react well. They acted fine at first, but I noticed that they were all doing the slow fade on me. I confronted my closest friend about it, and she said that they all thought I was faking it for attention. They'd only heard about gluten-free diets as a stupid fad. I broke down crying and told her all about how horrible I felt when I had to go to my dad's house and how I couldn't believe that she didn't believe me, and she was horrified. She turned around and became my biggest supporter. She talked to the others, but they still thought I was full of it and feeding her lies, so we decided it was best to break it off with them. My birthday is in August, so I had 2 more summers with my dad to go through after I found out. He took the revelation about my disease even worse than my ex-friends. He would scream that I thought I was better than him and that I was making up medical problems because I wanted to be special, and he wouldn't put up with that. I offered to take him with me to the doctor, but he said that doctors are scam artists and that he didn't believe anything they said. It was horrible. It got to the point where he started sabotaging my food and cursing at me when I got sick. So, I've gotten pretty wary about telling people about the disease. Between my personal experiences and hearing people make fun of gluten-free food on TV and the internet, I've decided I'm not comfortable with telling new people. I know that's cowardly, but I'm so afraid of what people will think of me. This is my last summer with my dad, and it's the last summer with my dad. He can rot in hell for all I care. He treats me like garbage. I've only got to tough it out for another few weeks, and that's not my problem. I can already hear your advice about leaving my dad's house or calling CPS, and respectfully, I've made my decision that it's easier just to stay for the next 3 weeks and then leave forever. Please don't focus on that part. This is the problem I need help with. My best friend and I have made a new group of friends. They're great people, really fun. We play role-playing games every weekend. We've been hanging out since May. There are 10 or 11 of them, depending on whether you count this guy who doesn't regularly attend games. My best friend approached me yesterday and told me that the rest of the group has been talking behind my back. They've noticed that I constantly turn down food, that I'm very picky about what I eat, and that I've been getting thinner and acting sick, because I've been living with my dad. They've come to the conclusion that I have anorexia and are planning to stage an intervention for me next weekend. Guys, I don't know what to do. This is such an awkward situation. I know I should tell them, but I'm so scared they're going to reject me. They've already got this idea in their heads about what's wrong, and at this point, I'm afraid they'll think I'm just making excuses. And I've been burned before. I lost a ton of friends by telling them about my disease. Yeah, they were jerks, but it really freaking hurt. How do I do this? How do I explain it so they'll believe me? I can't handle any more people calling me a liar. I'll have a mental breakdown. This disease has ruined my life in so many ways. I just wanted to have this one part of my life separate from that. Please give me advice. Update 6 days later. Hey guys, thanks for all your help. The intervention was yesterday, and I figured you'd want to know how everything went. A few hours before the game started, one of my friends, let's call him Zach, texted me asking if I could come to his house. He hosts the games, early because he wanted to discuss some stuff about the game. I figured this was probably the intervention and texted my best friend. I think there was some confusion in the last post. This is the friend who was with my other friend group, the one I poured my heart out to, and then she followed me to the new group. Let's call her Laura, to ask if she'd been invited too. She hadn't, so I asked her to come with me. Before I went to his house, I did something a little cheeky inspired by one of the comments on the last post. I went and picked up some gluten-free Chinese food from a place I frequent. They have this amazing vegetable fried rice that I've fallen in love with. They're really careful about cross-contamination, and I've been eating there for years without ever getting sick. I brought the food with me to Zach's house, along with Laura and my notebooks and dice for role-playing. Zach seemed really taken aback that Laura was there. I asked him if something was wrong, and he awkwardly said it was fine. Then I said something like, "Is it alright if I eat something while we do this? I missed lunch, and I'm really hungry," and pulled out the Chinese food. He said it was fine but seemed kind of alarmed, like I was freaking him out. I started eating, and he began his pitch. I didn't actually call you here to talk about game stuff. Some of us have noticed things recently that we're concerned about, and they elected me to talk to you." I said, "Okay, what's up?" He listed off a bunch of things they'd observed, how they never saw me eat anything, how I always seemed sick and was getting thinner, the fact that I seemed uncomfortable and nervous when food came up, and how I turned down everything offered to me. Then he finally dropped the bombshell. Michael's older sister is anorexic and she acts a lot like you do. We think you might be anorexic." I swallowed my food and tried not to look nervous. "I'm not," I told him. He started talking about how nobody thinks they're anorexic but that there's clearly something going on with me, and he just kept rambling. So I cut him off. "I do have a problem, but it's not anorexia. Do you mind letting me talk and explain it?" He reluctantly agreed. I think he was afraid I was going to say something like I thought I was too fat and needed to lose weight or something. He seemed really committed to the idea that I was anorexic. I'm going to try to paraphrase what I said here because I was really proud of myself for it. "I know I'm losing weight in an unhealthy way, but it's not on purpose. I have a disease that means I can't eat grains like wheat, barley, and rye. When I do, I get very sick, and my body starts ripping up my stomach, so I can't digest much of anything, even things that don't contain those grains. It's not just an allergy, it does serious long-term damage to me. If I eat a piece of bread, I'd break out in rashes, start throwing up, and might get stuff that seems unrelated, like horrible muscle cramps. When I turn down food, it's because you guys offer me stuff like Doritos and PB&Js. If I ate that stuff, it would make me violently ill. I turn it down to prevent my health problems from getting worse. The reason my symptoms have been popping up, and I've been getting sick and losing weight, is that right now I'm living in a family situation where I'm forced to eat the foods my body reacts badly to. When I first met you guys, I was living with my mom, and she accommodated me really well. But right now, I'm living with my dad, and he sabotages my food because he thinks I'm making my disease up and that my doctor is a fraud." Zach took out actual note cards and looked through them. He literally had a script for the intervention. That's what I get for hanging out with the kind of dramatic people who play tabletop RPGs, I guess. He was quiet for a really long time, then he asked a few questions. The first was, "But then why do you turn down, like, Coke?" And I said, "Because Coke is nasty, but I didn't want to complain and make you guys buy root beer just for me." Then he said, "Why didn't you just tell us this stuff?" Laura jumped in and explained what happened with our last friend group. So Zach said, "Okay, so like, what would I probably have in the house right now that you'd be willing to eat in front of me?" I wanted to facepalm at this one. I asked if he was serious, and he was. So we found some air pop popcorn, and I ate some in front of him. He finally seemed to accept what I was saying. He awkwardly changed the subject to gaming stuff, and we talked about that until the rest of the group started showing up. When Michael got there, Zach took him aside and started talking to him in what I guess they thought was a subtle way. They kept looking over at me and weren't exactly keeping their voices down. Michael asked if I seemed defensive, and Zach shrugged and said not really. I pointedly ate popcorn for the rest of the game. Afterward, Michael texted me, apologized for assuming I was anorexic, and asked what snacks they could put out for me. I actually cried a little. I had been so worried about getting kicked out, but they immediately moved to accommodate me. They're nice people. So everything worked out fine. Sorry for the anticlimax, haha.